WNBA preseason in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Scotiabank Arena. Ladies and gentlemen, amazing turnout. This past weekend, May 13th, 2023, we saw the lights of the Chicago Sky versus the Minnesota Lynx in a first ever preseason game to be in Canada. And what I love about this was the amazing sights and sounds by the fans, the reaction, the welcoming crowd. Over 19,000 people sitting in the stands. Sold out event, ladies and gentlemen. And I have to say this right now, honestly, like, to be a basketball fan in Canada, where I reside in, to see the lights of women coming out, blood, sweat, tears, playing the game that they knows that they love to see, and the fans reacting, the kids, fathers with their kids, mothers with their kids, group families, seeing the lights of the standing ovation of Serge Ibaka, who won the NBA title in a Toronto Raptors uniform, standing ovation. Seeing the lights of Lou Dort from the Oklahoma City Thunder getting an ovation of a lifetime. I wanted to come on this podcast to talk about my experience. My experience and the reason why I believe Toronto needs to be the home as far as 2023, the end of the WNBA season, heading into 2024. And if you just don't hear the excitement, if you don't listen to what it is that I'm saying, you're going to miss the message. So for everybody that's watching this, listening to this, like, share, subscribe to the YouTube. The link is in the bio. Officially Rory's channel. Like, subscribe, share it out to your friends. The Mitchel Unleashed podcast, where we're talking about a magnitude of different topics from an open perspective. No judgment, but open perspective. Cool, calm, and calculated. WNBA Toronto, let's talk about it. Let's get on business. When I showed up at the arena and seeing all the sea of orange hoodies, WNBA logo, WNBA hats, seeing, young males, young women, more importantly, young women dressed up in the gear, it showed me Canada, Toronto needs this team. Kathy, the GM, we got to talk to you. We know that you made history, her story, they like to say, coming and bringing this preseason game to the city of Toronto. And just that whole day was so special. Having that monument, the orange logo being signatured by all the fans, the photo ops, running into some people that I know in the networking community, text messages going through, seeing people in the stands that I knew. It was amazing, from a fan perspective. And shout outs to the WNBA. And I think that men need to rally more behind the women's game, because the women's game is something special. NCAA March Madness female tournament was the highest rated, highest viewed. The teams like LSU, the teams like Virginia Tech, the teams like Iowa, the laundry list goes on and on. Louisville. The experience that's set up, and I didn't get a chance to take out any of the fan festivities, but from what I saw on social media, from what I was looking at, it tells us that basketball is here in Canada. Don't just look at the 2019 Toronto Raptors and them creating history. I'm not a Raptors fan, but it was great to see the young development talent that we have coming up in Canada from all plethoras of males and women, of males and females that are excited to simply sit here and be in the space and to be into what it is that we're doing. But this is the reason why Toronto needs to have that team. Toronto needs to be the first on the list, the first name on the list and the last name on the list. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. Because this draft class that's coming up, ladies and gentlemen, in 2024, this draft class alone has the ability to give the keys to one of these top 4 names that I'm going to speak of. The Angel Reeses of the world who plays for LSU. The Caitlin Clarks of the world that plays for Iowa. I'm going to speak to why Toronto needs to have this team. Why Toronto needs to capitalize on one of the greatest opportunities in all of women's sports. You can give the keys to one of these 4 women. The Haley Van List that transferred from Louisville to come to the LSU team. That star-studded team with the Angel Reeses of the world. You've got Iowa with the Caitlin Clarks of the world. And you got the returning Paige Buchers coming back to the NCAA female counterparts. And I'm going to say this right now, like, it has to happen. I'm championing this. I'm putting that energy out in the atmosphere. Those top 4 women that you've heard me speak about have the ability to get the keys to the city of Toronto and change how women's sports could be. This whole city, having a whole city, have all of Toronto, having all of Canada behind your back. What I loved about my experience, I made sure I had my ticket in hand. I was sitting, and I want to make sure I can fact check this. I was sitting for this game, basically section 114, row 7, seat 3. Boy, oh boy, to have that view of everything that's going on. I know when I tag the post on social media, you'll be able to see the ticket, you'll be able to see where I was sitting, the player introductions and all that great stuff. Man, I'll tell you, it was a sight to see. It was something to see. It was something to really just, it was good, And this scene that was something to really honor, you know what I mean? Sitting in that section there, and getting a good grasp of the game and just seeing all the smiling faces, and everybody just seemed happy that night. They just seemed happy. They seemed thrilled to be there. There was no egos. There wasn't no, people not smiling. Everybody in that building was smiling. My section was smiling. People were smiling. Shirts were being tossed, merch giveaways, Canadian Tire giveaways, a whole bunch of stuff, man. Is that it was great to see a lot of men actually championing the game, And I talk to a lot of talking points on this podcast. I speak to a lot of talking points on this podcast where men need to rally behind more women's sports, right? And how these women all look up to the late great that you've heard me call, have all looked up to the late great Kobe Bryant. Kobe, Mamba mentality. Paige Buchers is using that to heal back from her injury. You got Caitlin Clark that puts up just a dramatic performance in the NCAA finals. You know what I mean? And just looking at the laundry list of other players that are out there, the Cameron Brinks of the world, the Aaliyah Edwards of the world, the Deja Kellys of the world, right? The Sarah Andrews of the world, the laundry list of names, And I'll say this to a lot of folks. What the WNBA needs is to really understand that when 19,000 people come out, over 19,000 people come out to the city at 4:00 in the afternoon to watch the Chicago Sky and the Minnesota Lynx, my God, it was so amazing to see. It was so amazing to see. And I want to pull up some things about that game that I loved, right? Yes, the Chicago Sky did win 82-74, but I really wanted to highlight on a couple things. And knowing that Bridget Carlton came out, had a conversation with the crowd, thanking the crowd, the Canadian, and seeing the laundry list of other players that went out there and played a performance of a lifetime. I want to give a shout out to also the Chicago Sky and Kiana Traylor, ladies and gentlemen, 23rd pick from the Chicago Sky. She went out there and put up a masterclass performance, 13 points, closed that out. You know what I mean? And you've heard me come on the Instagram in my story. And I said, and I tagged the name. I said, Kiana Traylor, sleeper MVP going into this WNBA season. Because she's got the mind of a guard. You know, she can showcase her ability. She can put up that shot. She's shifty through the key. And I'm seeing executive exclusive decision making of the high level of play that was happening. You see what I'm saying? So as far as when I look at what I think Toronto could do on a Saturday afternoon, it needs to be the home. It needs to be the defining understanding of that we need to see a WNBA team emerge in Canada. And I know we're licking our chops. We're, sitting here and clenching our hands and saying we can welcome this. We could welcome the ribbon cutting of an announcement of a Toronto expansion team to go into those sweepstakes of those 4 women that I spoke about, because it's needed and it's necessary. And I truly believe the city of Toronto would rally behind that. They would rally behind one of those 4 that I've called. And I think that what we have to keep in mind and put into perspective is that the game is always going to be played at the highest level. You know what I mean? Women deserve to have the ability to have highlighted marquee games, big time television broadcasts of these games. You get what I mean? My experience, what I loved is I just loved everything about that day. It's like the city came together. Heck, you had the Blue Jays game that was going on over at Rogers Center. And I saw a lot of blue jerseys. But in those blue jerseys, I also saw a lot of orange. I saw a sea of orange. It's like if you were on one side, you were a Blue Jays fan. If you're on the other side, you would go there to watch the WNBA. So for the WNBA, I think it's time, and I know a lot of people that are listening to this can openly understand. It's time to see this team happen. And you have a space in this city, Toronto. You have this space with fans that are going to show up. You have the space on a Saturday afternoon or during the weekday when people are getting off work in the city of Toronto that, heck, maybe we should skip over and go to Scotiabank Arena and root on a Toronto WNBA team. Maybe get the sea of men and women in Jurassic Park come playoff time for the WNBA. And maybe rallying and having that thing that the city can clench to of championing women's sports to really get and proceed to the next level and open and understanding, because I'm here for it. And I think a lot of people that want to see this are feeling it. And we want to welcome it. We want to champion it. We want to be in the subway systems, handing high fives. We want to be on the street, handing high fives, taking the photo ops, right? Celebrating with the merch, having the gear of our respective players on our back that play the WNBA for the city of Toronto. So I'm not gonna lower my tone on this, but Toronto have to have that team no later than the end, or even better yet, midway through the 2023 WNBA season, right? It needs to happen. We need to see it. We need to feel it, right? Because I know that walking the streets between Scotiabank Arena, and if you're on King Street or wherever, or if you're on the Gardiner or wherever you're at, it will be something to feel good about. The women's game is ever changing. It's changing. It's looking better than the men's game. I'm going to keep it real sometimes. Sometimes I'm watching some of these women show up on that court, and I'm seeing some of the shots that are being pulled up from deep. I'm seeing some of the games that are being played. It's something to see. It's something to champion. It's something to be around. It's something to really, sink our teeth into. So let's get it. We want to see the best of the best compete any given night, any given afternoon. And let's keep on championing women's sports and continue to keep showcasing and celebrating women doing some amazing and powerful things. That is my time. Officially Rory here, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe, like, share, do whatever you got to do. Always support the creator. And let's keep continuing elevating each other in this thing called the world that continue to keep going around. We out.